Hey, what's going on, everybody? Vlad Sedler here, FTN Fantasy NFBC, OC Draft, Online Championship Draft. This is the Beat Jason Anthony League. Jason Anthony is my colleague uh, in podcasting that we host. The show we host every week. We are doing this 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific. Jason and I are on the West Coast. But before I introduce our drafter, and our draft will be getting started soon, wanted to say hello to one of our writers, analysts, and top-notch player, one of the top-ranked players in NFBC history, at Bronx Yankees 23 on Twitter, Mike Mager. Mike, what is going on, bud?
How's it going, Vlad? Hey,
Uh,
Jason. Looking
Hey,
forward to
Mike.
checking out the beginning of this draft.
yeah, he's Mike's on the East Coast here, so he's gonna hang with us a little bit. Got a work day going on tomorrow, so yeah, we'll see. We'll party it up. Jason, what's up, man? You ready for this one?
Now I'm excited. First live stream. Let's have some fun. Get the one pick. Shouldn't be too difficult for the first round, at least.
It's funny. We've all been drafting for a while. We've been drafting for a few months, yet the one pick has been quite elusive for us. And it's really funny that the three of us in each of our last drafts have finally been able to get a one pick. So, Mike, what was the draft that you got your one for?
It was a 400 DC that started yesterday.
Fantastic. And I assume you took the guy in your T-shirt.
Yes, I did.
Nice. And by the way, Mike has a pretty sweet article. It's one that I have done for the last couple of years, but I entrusted someone with a sharper mind than mine to do it, and it's about KDS strategy and draft mapping, and it's something that I think a lot of serious players kind of think about, right? Because the draft really is when you have an idea of what draft spot you have, it's just so much more than just that first round, of course, right? And so like the thought process behind how we're going to utilize our draft slot like throughout the draft, right? Like Mike, for example, when you get a KDA slot, no matter what type of draft it is, are you just kind of looking at like your possible targets in the first few rounds? Are you looking at the whole board? What's your plan usually?
Usually about the first 5 rounds. I think after that, it's kind of very difficult to predict. And I have my targets, later in the draft, and I might, if I want to get someone in round 14, it doesn't make a difference, what draft slot I'm going from. I'm going to go get my guy. So I usually look around 4 or 5 rounds.
All right, we are off and running. This is the 12-team online championship. It is a league with a $350 entry. The league winner and the second place at the end of the regular season is paid out, and then there is an overall component as well. So every player in every league goes into a large overall pot. And over the last few years, I believe last year there were about 2,700 entries. Drew Forte won the online championship last season. He basically had a lead in July that he did not relinquish. So he kind of kept that going strong for the full year. None of us could catch him. So congrats to Drew. And so we are off and running here. Jason, what number OC is this for you?
This is number 3. I have 2 Aaron Judge shares through the first 2, so it's nice to get a little mix up with Acuna to start it off.
Yes. And so, yeah, of course, a one pick. I don't know what that feels like to get an Acuna in a 12 yet. I've done 2 OCs myself, but the one draft that I did get Acuna, the most recent one, I don't know. There's just this feeling. I don't know. It's just like this amazing, just sort of like it feels like a true pole position, and just kind of be able to control the board, even if you're picking at the end, you're susceptible to position runs and things like that. But I mean, we'll see how this pans out for you. But there we go, looking good.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to click that button and write him in on your team.
Yeah. Don't want to panic and click on the Noel V. Marte button. We'll see how long we can get that joke to roll out.
Well, after drafting DCs for the first 3-4 months of this season, it's fun seeing all the picks pop up within seconds of each other.
Yeah, this is nice. So far the board has been pretty vanilla so far. So we're going to be looking at ADP in the RotoWire Online Championship from just 9 drafts between February 17th and today, February 22nd. 9 drafts there, and the first 5, 6, wait, 7 picks all went exactly via ADP, aligned with ADP there with Acuna, Bobby Witt, and Julio Rodriguez. Sometimes those two are interchanged. Corbin Carroll with the famous 4 pick. Kyle Tucker, Mookie Betts, the first pitcher off the board there, and Spencer Strider. Soto, Tatis, and Judge as we get here around the corner. There's Nelson Souza, famed NFFC and high stakes fantasy player. He is also a part of the FTN team on the football side. He's actually going to join us later when Mike drops off and goes to sleep to get ready for work. But yeah, here we are around the turn. 2 first basemen, Freeman and Olsen. And yeah, it's so far pretty vanilla. No surprises here in the first round, right, Mike?
No, not that I see. I imagine we'll get a couple of pitchers in the round 2, maybe.
So we got a special guy here, so I got to give him some attention, some love. This is Uncle Ted, and I only learned about Uncle Ted recently. From what I know, he's a young guy, and he is the king of the stream. So any CBS mock draft or Fantasy Pros draft or just anything YouTube, like he is his comment central. And his big thing is starting pitching is just wait on it, and it's dumb. And so this is really funny, and it creates a great talking point for us. Like maybe if someone can explain why pitching is important, specifically in NFBC.
Well, I think you have to play to the market. The NFBC has a different market than a lot of home leagues and leagues on other sites. It is also format specific. Like I think you can wait longer on pitching in a 12-team OC league than you can in a 15 league. Anyone who participates, for instance, in the NFBC main event, 15-team league, knows how quickly pitching goes. Starting pitching is very scarce, especially starters with very good ratios, and you can wait on it, but it's really risky and not advised in most cases.
Well, let's show it up a little bit more. Thank you, Uncle Ted. We appreciate all your comments. Maybe we'll post another one later. And I don't know if you're really an uncle, but we'll buy it for now. All right, we got a good crowd in here tonight. Jason Anthony at Boom62. He is the man drafting tonight from the 1 spot. He's a player that, though he's my friend, and you don't want to be in. You really, I think a lot of us like kind of pick our spots. Like you can only do so many drafts. You can only handle so many fab leagues, and of course, walking into those extremely sharp rooms with a bunch of good players is usually something you want to avoid if at all possible. So, if I see Mike in a room and a draft signed up, and I know that there's a possibility I can draft maybe on the weekend, the problem is you can't avoid everyone at some point. You just gotta battle and go toe to toe. But my whole sort of roundabout way of saying that I usually do not like drafting against Jason. So Jason, I'm happy you didn't let me get into this draft tonight.
The feeling's mutual, Vlad, especially the league we drafted last year, and you were gifted Otani, I think, middle of the 2nd round. That I was in that league, unfortunately.
You were in that, yeah. Yeah, I talk about it a lot, and the funny part is I did not even win that league. I didn't even come in 2nd. I came in 3rd. This is not only a league where I got Otani late 2nd, but I got Acuna 6th overall. This is when he was going pretty much either 1 or 2. Wow. It was either Trey Turner or him, and then I got Strider in the 3rd. So you can only imagine how I could have potentially butchered that draft. But here we go. Turn in the corner. 2nd round looks, also pretty vanilla. You've got the nice Dodgers stack there at team 11 with Freeman and Otani. Judge and Harper, the power combo at 10. I believe that is Nelson there picking. Aaron Judge and Harper, phenomenal. And then here we go. Turning the corner. Everything is pretty ADP. What are you thinking here? You just got one more pick before you, so you can maybe talk about what you're thinking.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to have 2 picks back to back. I kind of talk about it a little bit once you're on the clock, especially. Possibly looking pitcher here. It feels like I'm pushing up a little bit. In the 12s, you can wait a little longer, but there's a couple really good arms on the board. Hard to pass on the bats, too. So I'm looking kind of all over the place. Alonso was an option. I think one of the picks is pretty straightforward. I'm going to go Rafael Devers. and it's an easy pick. And I think I'm actually going to push Bo Bichette up here and just
Oh,
really lock in my batting average with the first 3 picks, and I get to kind of have some fun the rest of the draft.
I like that, and the fact that that's very that I mean, technically, like this point last year, I mean, Bo Bichette falls there. It's like, oh my god, But these days, Bo Bichette is just not respected. I mean, he stopped running, or when he did run last year, at least it was very inefficient. And right now, he's got an ADP of 39. So that's definitely a push up. But if he's on a short list of guys that are able to hit 290 plus in a season. It's almost pretty much bankable, and that's what his career average is, even though it's been a few seasons. And I also have read a lot about him being everyone's like recommitted, right, to the season and getting ready, but just, some people with specific talent and work ethic, you just kind of buy it more, and especially coming off a poor season, especially in the counting court categories. You think that's crazy, Mike, what he did there taking Bichette?
No, not at all. I think he really is a good 4 category guy, and it's not impossible that bases will come back a little bit. I think I might have taken the guy who just went off the board now, Michael Harris. But I definitely it's good to lock in a shortstop now as well. So yeah, I definitely see it. And I think Toronto's offense might be a little more dynamic this year compared to last year. Not just a hunch.
By the way, it's really kind of wild to me when I'm in Draft Champions and I see Justin Turner there, and I've been a big fan for so many years, and he just finds a way to deliver every single season. But it's hard to imagine the guy's going to be turning 40 this year. So and that is kind of their new cleanup guy. I think an upgrade from Brandon Belt last year, and that's obviously a lot coming from me, who's a big Brandon Belt fan. Brandon Belt's just very unreliable as far as his health is concerned, and obviously his nice power. But how do you think Turner works out in that lineup with Guerrero and Bichette?
I think he's going to have a lot of chances to drive in runs. He certainly was very solid last year. He stayed healthy all year, and so I don't know if there's going to be some regression in terms of his playing time. And I'm also a little skeptical he's going to be playing third base on a regular basis. But I think the bat still plays. He's still knocking guys in, having good at bats. So I think where he's going, it's a pretty attractive price.
Yeah. So now we've got we're moving through this pretty fast, which is nice. We are going to stay with you for probably about not sure how many rounds we're going to get through, but probably an hour 15, hour and a half or so. Jason will finish off this league with everyone privately. But at pick 6, this is the man who joined us last week, CJ Kaltenbach. He's at pick 6, and so he got his boy. He's a Red Sox fan, and obviously still likes Mookie Betts and still drafting him. So he got him at 6. Jose Ramirez, adding a little bit of speed and power, and that's a nice little combo. And then the upside shot there of Elly De La Cruz. And by the way, that is pretty close to a maximum pick for Elly De La Cruz over the last few weeks. He's available at third base and shortstop. He's got an ADP at 26. So Siege with the triple hitters there. And you just kind of see it's just a whole different animal, these 12-teamers. Like pitching is getting pushed off later. There are going to be a lot of really good pitchers in round 6, 7, 8 that typically go much higher in other drafts. Are you looking at the board now, Jason, like where it's at? Are you happy with the fact that you passed on a Wheeler or a Gausman?
We'll see. I mean, they've still got quite a few picks till it gets back to the wrap. I think I'm pretty happy with it. Wheeler was the option for me there, but there's so many arms in the 12s that you can catch up on. I don't think Wheeler is a difference maker compared to the glob of pitchers in that realm. I think there's a clear top 3 or clear top 1 in Strider, and then there's a second tier in Cole and Burns, and then there's a decent drop off for the next tier. So I'm fine kind of dipping my feet in the next tier.
All right. Philip asks, what kind of league is this as far as scoring goes? And my apologies. I should not assume that everybody is familiar with this format. We have new people that have joined and listening and watching, but this is a standard 5x5 roto scoring, the home runs, RBI runs, batting average and stolen bases on the hitting side, and then pitching side, the 5 categories: strikeouts, saves, ERA, WHIP, and wins. And then it's just 120 total points for the Roto season. That's the max you can have if you have 12 points in each category, and that's kind of the goal here in these 12 teamers. We've seen people, I don't know, you guys remember what's the highest amount of points you've seen somebody win a league with, like 111-ish?
Yeah, not sure for the 12 team. I've seen some scores in the high 130s for a 15 teamer out of a possible 150.
I think I've seen a 111, 112, Vlad, just a team that completely dominated. It was not me, but I'd like to. Maybe this league.
Yeah. By the way, Jason, I remember you did your CLQ entry. So that's the Championship League qualifier. The contest that Bat Flip Crazy Toby had created. And man, that was a heck of a team you drafted there. What pick was that, and who were your first couple picks, if you recall?
I think it was the 7 pick. Let me pull up my sheet real quick.
Meanwhile,
Adam,
while you think about that, Adam Recamp says, I think Team 11 is from LA. Freeman, Ohtani, former Dodger Seager, and Yamamoto. So nice little combination there.
I don't like the Dodgers, and I would take all those guys. It's a pretty good pick.
That's a good idea to stack here. Mike Trout off the board at pick
early.
That's pick 42, pick 43. Trout's ADP in this contest is 58. So just a little bit early there. What else we got? Are you guys surprised Gallen just went before Kirby at 12-teamer? It's really not surprising in these leagues, right? Like anything can happen. These guys are all pretty close in value.
Not surprised at all. Take your guys. They're coin flip for some of them.
This is becoming my favorite guy. I'm sorry if I don't think he's doing it on purpose to get on here, but man, it's working. I love this stuff. Bichette will drop off hard this year. All right. Noted. What else we got here? All right. So here we go through the draft. That's quite some speed there for Siege in Team 6. He just gives no Fs right now. Mookie Betts, Jose Ramirez, Ellie De La Cruz, and then CJ Abrams. That's a ton of speed. What do you think, Mike, about this batting average for his team and just the way he's starting off with that build? Would you be comfortable with that?
Yeah, I'd probably be okay with it. I think Betts and Ramirez will be pretty good average. I mean, there's definitely risk with Ellie, but I think he's going to do a little better than last year in terms of average. And CJ Abrams, I think, will be at least an average player in terms of batting average, maybe a little upside from there. But definitely taking care of stolen bases early.
All right, we've got Jason Anthony at Boom62 on Twitter. He's on the board here, rounds 4 and 5. I think he might go pitcher here. Let's see. And also, Jason, I'm sure he's not. Actually, let me let you talk. What do you think?
No, you're good, Vlad. I'm gonna take a pitcher here. I'm trying to decide who. I got 4 in my queue. 12s are just a different animal than the 15s. You can take a little more upside, a little more risk. I haven't been on Scooble at all, and I think I might pull the trigger.
10 seconds.
Let's have some fun.
Let's do it. It's not a bad guy to go for it. What's the one? What's really the concern, like with Scooble, if anything, other than like, oh, he may not get 13 plus wins, but even that's possible, right? I mean, on a team like this, what's your downside?
100 miles an hour and spring training scares the living bejesus out of me. I don't like that, actually. I'd rather have him throw 96. But his arm is live right now. See if he can stay healthy. And then I'm going to go with Max Fried.
Nice.
Love it. That's a popular, not a popular, but a well-projected one in the FTN data VDP projections. Max Fried really does pop off there, and hopefully his arm does not pop off. He's obviously one of the best in as far as ratio help over the last few seasons when he's healthy. I mean, the guy averaging an ERA under 3, I believe since 2019. He is pretty elite should rack up the wins. There are a lot of win potential, and most projection systems are it's just kind of just like safe math. And I'm not saying, talking smack here or anything. It's just that it's hard to project what truly can be had there, right? Because no one's going to, going to project 19 wins for Strider or whatever it is. But you have a legit shot to have, multiple starters on this team with 18 plus wins.
Yeah, the Braves is a good staff to attack.
Rob says CJ Abrams, the new Alberto Mondesi Siege. We know Siege has loved Alberto Mondesi over the years.
Oh, Vlad, I pulled up my CLQ, the OC qualifying team. I had the 7 pick. I started Judge, Harper, Kirby, Pablo.
That's nice. A little different here with Nelson did team 10. He got Judge at 10 with Harper, and then a pitcher, and then Adolis Garcia. So he's just got like the big power going on over there. So that's pretty nice there. So we've turned the corner. If you guys need me to make the board bigger, I can do that. But when we do that, we lose a little bit of the, okay. All right. So hopefully you can see that. Nolan Jones off the board, probably the best hitter in the month of September, but one of the highest BABIPs in the league last year. What is your rate of sustainability or earning value, Mike, in that range where he's going, like in the 50s for Nolan Jones this season?
I have not yet pulled the trigger, although I'm usually more conservative than most with early picks. The high BABIP concerns me, as well as I think roughly a 30% strikeout rate. It does have half his games in cores, and but it's a bad lineup. No, I could see him regressing, but still having decent value. I just around round 5, I'm usually looking at pitching or maybe a little safer hitting option.
And then as far as closers here, it's pretty standard fare in this draft so far. You usually get your big 3 off the board around this time, and that's exactly what's happened here. Just always sometimes a different mix of it, but between Edwin Diaz, Josh Hader, and Devin Williams, those are the 3 the top guys off the board. I've seen Joan Duran typically go 4th among the closers. I've been in a draft where he's gone 1st off the board. I think there's, correct me if I'm wrong, but like RP1 is within the realm of possibilities, right?
Yeah, actually, in fact, in the 400 DC that I'm doing right now, he was the first closer taken off the board.
Wow.
And also, I just want to point out in this draft, that's got to be close to a max pick on Altuve. I think he's usually off well before he went off today.
Yeah, Altuve, ADP of 39 in the drafts here, and so here he's going in the 50s, and this is what it's all about. It's sometimes you get in the right place at the right time, and you get some phenomenal deals. And yeah, I mean, there's always going to be something that falls down the board, and that's really nice. So team 9 there. He's got the Tatis Turner start, so he's got the power, he's got speed. Average isn't necessarily hurting, and then got a nice starting pitcher. You got the best catcher in the game. You don't have to worry about. And then Jose Altuve, a healthy one, if he stays healthy, right? I mean, we're talking typical 2nd round value return, right?
Yeah, it could be. And he's been running again, so there's definitely upside there if he can stay healthy. And he's going to rack up runs in that lineup.
Jason, do you want to give this? Do you want to let? Sorry, he's getting more publicity. I don't know if you guys want me to stop showing Uncle Ted stuff. Do you know? Can you inform him on what's going on with Keaton Winn?
Keaton Winn had a Baki elbow, from my understanding. He's shut down temporarily for the next week. I don't think he's going to get drafted in an OC though, so not really on the list for this. Maybe a DC.
Yeah. All right, so there it is. Facts
Vlad,
are
I
facts.
got a question for you and Mike while Mike's on here. In a 12, with players like Bradish and Sanga with the injury news come out, are they undraftable for you guys? Is there a price that would make sense to stash? Where's your guys' head at with those?
My initial gut would be to not stash them. I think I don't know, the bench spots are so valuable. I don't want to take on an injury early on in the season. I want to use those bench spots to go hunting upside plays in Fab. So I would probably stay away.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to get any new information on probably either guy in a week and kind of know the situation there. So it's such a vast player pool. There are just so many options. I don't think it's worth it. Like anytime I do that in the past, and the example I brought up, at least the most recent one, is Carlos Rodon, a guy that I just was not targeting last season, and I stayed clear of him in most of my drafts. And for whatever reason, when I got to Vegas, maybe just the excitement of like being around people and hanging out, he really fell in draft boards and, in my main event. And I was like, all right, you know what? Let me just take him here. But at the same time, I had also taken Musgrove, the previous pick, and Musgrove had been dealing with some health issues as well. So before I knew it, I had 2 instant bench players in 2 of my top basically 7 picks. It's just so dangerous.
Yeah, at this point, you don't know how long either's going to be out. And I think sometimes a mistake people make is they assume that, well, when they're back in a month or two, they're getting that star player. And, with a shoulder injury or, there's no guarantee he's going to be like Senga, for instance, is going to be as effective as he was last year if he's has a bum shoulder.
Yeah,
Jason's
coming rush back, right? They usually get injured again.
Yeah, Jason, you coming up here on the next pick, 6-7 turn. But everybody, FTNFantasy.com is the site. We got Jason Anthony, Mike Mager, Eric Cross, Lucas Beery, just a ton of amazing, talented writers. We've got phenomenal tools, projections, rankings, 15-team, 12-team. We're updating them constantly. So give us a shot if you have not already. If you want to use a promo code, you can get 5% off. It's Seeger5. So FTNFantasy.com. Here we go. Turn in the turn. Are you bummed that Jazz Chisholm didn't make it, or would you have taken him there?
Pretty good value here into the 6th round. I would have looked at it. There's another outfielder I'm interested in here. Possible closer, possible third starter. So I'm trying to see kind of what Thompson does here and go from there.
All right, and just looking. Yeah, that's a nice. All right, here we go. Here we go with your picks.
So he just took the outfielder that I would have taken there. So that's unfortunate. It never fails. So I think I'm going to go pitcher. I'm going to go starter closer. So I'm going to go David Bednar for my closer. And the upside, and I don't know if I can do Blake Snell with this build. This is where the fun stuff happens. Start internally questioning yourself.
Yeah, and then and live on air while you're drafting in front of millions of people.
Millions, if not the tens, huh?
Yeah, it's big.
30 seconds to play around with this.
Yeah, we got the team 2's got he basically grabbed 2/3 of that Tampa offense. I'm sorry, Tampa outfield there with Arozarena, Josh Lowe. That's quite a bit of stolen bases to go with Bobby Witt, so that's something that's interesting. He's got a nice power base with Pete Alonso, the guy that since he started playing in 2019, nobody's averaging more home runs per season. Even if you prorate that 2020 season with 37% of that season, he's pretty much averaging 45 home runs a year. And then he had basically, if you recall from a tweet, Ryan Bloomfield of Baseball HQ pointed out how I think he's had like the lowest BABIP in like the modern era. It was insane how low his BABIP was, and he had an outlier low. I think it was like a 2. Does anyone remember his batting average, Alonso? It was just like 40, 50 points below.
Yeah, his average was I think like 217, something like that, a little under 220.
Yeah, so. And I typically, one of my strategies is to usually like stay away from Mets, just because, man, I'm sorry, I have so many Mets friends, but I just feel so bad for that team. They're just kind of like just cursed in a way. And I did just draft Cody Senga in my most important draft of the season so far. Luckily, not as my SP1, but that stings a little bit.
So, Jason, talk to us about Snell. What made you go for it?
So Snell, I think once he signs, it's probably going to jump at least a round of ADP. I think the unknown is scaring people away. It's scary. Last time he had a Cy Young, the next year it definitely blew up. But that kind of arm, pick one of the seventh round and the strikeouts that I can get with Fried's ratios and Skubal's upside, I figured it was a good pair, and especially in the 12 team OC to kind of take a shot at the overall, not just the league.
Benson says Team 11, he can build a staff. That's going to be a unit. That's the Dodgers stack that we had that then added Nico Horner for some stolen bases and then Royce Lewis. Royce Lewis, potential upside if he's healthy for the full year. Give us, either you guys or both, your just overall prognosis on this Mets offense that involves Royce Lewis and Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa, these guys that have a problem staying healthy. Does the magic all kind of work this year?
I'm a little skeptical on the health, especially Correa and Buxton, but it's not a bad lineup, and the division is weak, so I think they'll definitely score enough to. I think they're going to win that division. Their staff is good enough as well, but no, I think one of the things I'm a little surprised with is how late Royce Lewis lasted in this draft. I know it's an injury risk, but the skills look fantastic, and that's a fairly late pick, I think.
Yeah, he's been free falling in most of the drafts that I've been doing. Nobody wants to kind of grab the falling sword, but man, the upside there is just first round ADP next year if he can play 140 games.
KC, the Royals, dark horse in the AL Central. Yes, dark horse for third place, maybe. We know they'll be above the White Sox, most likely.
Hey, give them some credit, though, for spending some money and trying to improve the team. It's really nice to see. I wish all the owners were of the same mind.
And Pittsburgh, spending money on Mitch Keller. That was interesting, too. That's a nice 5-year deal for him. And then I just broke the number one rule of drafts. We'll talk about players that haven't been drafted yet, but that's okay.
That's only if you're in it, right?
Yeah, it's not even close to his round yet, and also I think some of those things are out the window in these live streams because when you sign up in the lobby for a beat an expert draft, it doesn't matter who it is or from what organization, it's listed there, so it's tagged, and most people I think recognize or at least should know that these drafts are going to have the boards up, your names are going to pop up. There's really no way to not have it on there. So if you're looking to not have the world see who you're drafting or, follow your strategy, then, these live streams are probably not the way to go. All right. You're not falling asleep yet, Jason. You still got 20 more rounds, but you got to work tomorrow. I mean, you have to work every day, right? There's no days off for you, right?
Yeah, there's very few days off running your own company, but it's a labor of love.
Can you plug it if there's maybe somebody up in your area in your NorCal neck of the woods? Aren't you like you are the king of car washes in Northern California?
No, not the king of car washes. I'm lucky enough to be third generation owner in a car wash company. It's our 60th anniversary this year. Wow. 7 Flags Car Wash. We have 14 locations all around Salado County, one up in Sacramento. So if you're ever in the area, come by and see us.
Sounds like king of the North Cal to me. That works. And a king of the draft board today, lining up the yellow brick road there. Tariq Skubal, Max Fried, David Bednar, Blake Snell. Not to give away your strategy on this, but are you looking at a closer anytime soon? Or are you going to be okay kind of digging into the bottom guys?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the OCs, that closers are very obtainable, whether late in the draft or fab, especially drafting early, like we are late February. You can take some specs late in the draft, and if they don't pan out, just drop them, but more than likely you'll hit on one of them and fall into a closer for the rest of the year. So I got my one solid one in Bednar. I'm probably, unless there's a huge value looking me in the face, probably going to avoid the closers for a while now.
Makes sense. Mike, you are you have been focused on 15 teamers and auctions and everything for so many years. And because of the Championship League qualifier, you're jumping back into a 12 team OC and back into the 12 format. And of course, it's a completely different beast from the draft to fab and strategy and everything. Just looking at this board for the first 8 picks, first of all, are you excited to be back into this? And then any takeaways about how you might approach your drafts?
I'm definitely looking forward to it. I know after doing all these 15 teamers, I'm pretty confident I'll like my team in comparison in the 12, but I still feel like I have a lot to learn. I'm going to take maybe a week or so off from the 15 team DCs and just kind of prep for my OC. Probably going to do it sometime in early March. Definitely want to try to introduce a little more upside play with my picks, and I probably need to back off a little bit on the pitching that I tend to hunt aggressively in 15 teamers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's something very unique about the 12s as far as a builds where you can chase the upside more. There's less room there's more room for error, and you can blow half your draft, and as long as you're active in fab and you're in on guys early, it could still work out for you. But the balance is of course important, and it's a larger field. So as opposed to the main event where there's usually under 1,000 total people, maybe more this year, but in the OCs, there are 3 times as many people that you have to fend off. So you do kind of have to hit everything right. And it is a mix of the upside and the boring guys. I think there really is a thing, Jason's about to pick, but I mean, Mike, what do you think about just the overdoing it as far as too many upside guys on a team in a 12?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, there has to be a balance. I think you can take more risk in a 12 than a 15, but yeah, I would not overdo it. Some are going to bust, and those are valuable picks you're wasting if you get too risky.
All right, let's go through the mind of Jason as he gets ready to make his 2 picks in round 8 and 9.
Looking at a catcher here, if he makes it to us, we'll see if Thompson snipes me again. But Yainer Diaz is a big target of mine this year, especially in a 12, kind of locking down a catcher position. I think it's important to kind of get your stats from the catcher position and not be a net negative, but a net positive. So I'm not trying to invest a 4th round pick or a 5th round pick in a Rutschman, but at least one here in the first 9 rounds to kind of lock in a catcher. So I'm going to go him.
There you go.
And then Seiya Suzuki.
Don't mind that combo at all. That's really, really nice there. Let me get the board in a good place so that everyone can see it. There we go. And we're going to start to lose part of it as we move forward, but I want to make sure everybody sees it. So, all right, here we go. Just Joe Musgrove off the board, a little around his ADP. He's kind of sometimes in an island on his own. It's a little shocking to see, not that it's a bad pick at all, but Cole Reagans, usually don't see him going ahead of Musgrove. Do either of you guys have a strong opinion on one over the other?
I don't. I think they're both a little risky this year. I definitely trust Musgrove's skills. He's got to stay healthy, and if he can stay healthy, I think this is a great price for him. Reagans definitely has the upside. He's never done it for a whole season, so there's some risk there. But maybe the Royals have something with him. He certainly looked great last year.
Joe Orico, one of the up-and-coming analysts in the fantasy baseball space, and happens to be a Canadian, one of the very many that we have in the industry. Good players, good analysts. Joe says in the top 100 is Nick Pollock here now, but Nick Pollock from Pitcher List has is a friend of Reagan's, I guess, and they sit and watch his pitches on video, and pretty cool the way that the industry kind of mixes in with the pitchers.
I was wondering if there was going to be any overreaction to Musgrove's spring training start today where he didn't get an out.
Oh, I didn't know. I haven't even watched. I just saw the game was 8-0. I didn't know he was the one pitching.
Yeah, but spring training overreaction season, huh?
It didn't go well.
That's fine.
He was working on something.
Yeah. Hey, this is when you do it. Team 4, by the way, got the the Corbin Carroll start. He locked up his corner infield here. He went does not have a first baseman. Obviously, nothing wrong with that, but he went back to back third baseman there, Bregman and Arenado. He looks like kind of building a little bit more of like it's not a super sexy team, right? It's a little bit more like solid. Like when you think of just not upside, it's Bregman, but yet somehow every year the guy's still hitting second, between Altuve and Jordan when he's healthy and scoring 100 runs and producing, right? I mean, nothing wrong with Bregman and usually nothing wrong with Arenado.
No, they're kind of what I think of as good boring picks. They're boring, but you can draft them with a high confidence of what you're getting, high floor picks.
Yeah, Spencer Torkelson off the board. He's one of the few guys in the VDP projections, projected for over 35 home runs, former first overall pick, an absolute bust his rookie season, broke out in a big way, did a rare thing, driving in 90-plus runs for a Detroit Tigers team where you rarely see that, at least since Miggy is no longer a thing. Adam talks about KDS and just not changing it, just leaving it like a 1 through 12. KDS, of course, Kentucky Derby style, where you can set your first round preferences for your pick and then a random draw occurs. But he says, looking at ADP lately for OC, I like the 1 or the middle. Jason, when you set your KDS, are you doing it Modica style straight butter, or are you mixing in the middle or higher picks before that?
Depends how many times you get at the top. It's you don't want to turn down Acuna early, but if I got a bunch of ones, I might go or a bunch of 1, 2, 3s, I might go 1 and then towards the back, because the back at a 12 I really like. I think there's basically a top 13 and then a little cliff. So at 12, 13 you can get a really monster start.
All right, we got Haesung Kim off the board. He's going to play primarily at shortstop. We talked about this the other day, right? About Xander Bogaerts is primarily going to play second base. How much of a decline, if any, do either of you guys see for Kim coming off that massive season last year?
Yeah, I could see some regression there. I think he'll continue to run. I think the Padres probably will need him to run with the bottom of their lineup looks horrible, but I could definitely see. I wouldn't expect a repeat. I'll put it that way.
The gift that keeps on giving. Uncle Ted, he says, screw KDS. Who cares where you draft? Championships are won in the late rounds, not the first. Thank you.
I like Uncle Ted.
I like this guy, yeah.
Other than the Bichette call.
Billy Hayes, another veteran player, he says, Team 6, this is a call out on usage, needs a bit more positional experience, putting a lot of faith in the youngsters. Shots fired. I mean, it's fine, right? Like, people build in different ways, and I think you can afford yourself some of those, those type of picks if you feel confident in your fab and being able to scout talent and getting ahead of people or outbidding people. So, or it also could work out, right? Because if you look at Team 6 and you might think of like, oh, Ellie De La Cruz, what a risk, probably a bust in that round. But like, what if not? What if he's Ellie De La Cruz returning first, second round value? Then you got yourself a steal there.
Yeah, I mean, the great results from Ellie is definitely within the range of possibilities. I mean, everyone's right now very focused on the risk, and I think the risk is real, but the upside is just as real with him. I think, you could, one of the great things about this game is you can win with so many different strategies. And of course, at the end of the day, it all comes down to picking the right people.
All right, here we go. I'm trying to get a feel for closer. Oh, I know he hasn't been drafted yet, but might as well bring him up since he's probably going to drop a little bit. But Adbert Alzolay saying that he isn't just kind of being handed the job. Is that a spot where you guys think he wins out talent-wise, or do you think Hector Neris kind of gets in on a committee, or maybe Julian Merriweather, or what's going on there?
If I had to bet, I'd say Alzolay starts with the job. He certainly showed really nice skills last year, was successfully held the job for a while. But but he has had some injury concerns. Nerys had an excellent year last year, and I think Alzolay is going to have a pretty short leash. In a DC, let me say, I think Nerys is a very good pick and a good bet to get you 10 saves or so.
Yeah, might be a buying opportunity with Alzolay depending how far he falls, but in a fab league it definitely changes in a DC where you don't get any free agent pickups because you can run with a couple months Alzolay, and then if he loses it, you can bank the saves and move on. In a DC that can become useless pretty quick.
Claim Holmes off the board, New York Yankees. That is the second closer for Team 6 there, paired with Iglesias, who, I mean, he's not quite the elite ratio guy like some of the others, but he's obviously can easily run away with the most saves in Major League Baseball. Not a bad bet there, except for unless they're just blowing everybody out by 10, right? Or does it matter?
That's the risk. Sometimes mediocre teams get a lot of save opportunities. I think, Class A blew a lot of save opportunities last year, and he still led all of baseball in saves. And they were the opposite of an explosive offense.
Yeah, I did a lot of that when I was, I was working on projections, and I was looking at save opportunities per team and just like the trends, and just I was looking at the last few years, 10 years, and I was making sure that just was making sure that I was kind of distributing and within range. But it's funny how many like wild outliers there were. Like Pittsburgh did have a little bit better season than they were projected for, but it still was a middle of pack season. But they were, I think, top 4 or 5 in save opportunities. That's why Bednar notched so many of them. And so that's one of the things I also worry or concerned about. Like maybe sometimes people are looking at like, wow, this guy got so many saves last year. But when you're still thinking about perhaps how lucky they may have been with just so many close games last season, it may not necessarily happen. They may be like, the White Sox or Colorado and only get, if they win 75 games or 80 games, maybe only 30 opportunities as opposed to like 42 or something.
Can make a big difference in the save standings for sure.
By the way, oh, sorry. I'm going to talk about your picks here in a second. Just like Camilo Doval, what am I missing that he's like basically going after the big guys? Like why do people love Camilo Doval so much and more than some of these other really good closers?
Probably the K upside and, the 100-mile-an-hour fastball. He was a lot of fun to watch and really good for 4.5 months last year. And if you can get saves under Gabe Kapler, you can probably get saves under anybody.
All right, let's talk about your turn there. 10, 11, Marte, Rodon.
Yeah,
feeling good about Rodon?
I do. I think 3 weeks from now he's going to be going around 5, around 6, if the news keeps being positive. So I love taking the shot on him here in round 11. I've been buying the dip all off season. We'll see what the ADP settles at come main event time, but round 11, I'm all in. And then Marte, just kind of the boring guy that you just write in that I think is really valuable. You don't need the upside. You don't need to go chase Geloff and the steals and the the batting average. So I'm pretty happy with both those picks.
Nelson Souza is going to be coming on with us. Mike, I think you're having more fun than you expected to have. I think you thought you'd have some fun, but are you going to stick around with us or going to head out soon?
Yeah, I'm gonna head out soon. Unfortunately, I have to work tomorrow. It's already past midnight, so way past my bedtime. But this has been a lot of fun. Good learning experience for me. I'm gonna be sitting there doing my first OC in a while, probably in a couple weeks, and it's been a lot of fun. Thanks.
Thank you for coming on, Mike Mager. Make sure you follow him at Bronx Yankees 23, and I'll see you in Vegas soon, my friend.
Can't wait. Jason, good luck tonight. See you in Vegas.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you joining us. It was a pleasure. Good luck on your OC.
Thanks.
All right. Mike Mager, everybody. All right. Here we go. Drafting the board. And There he is. We're always drafting. He's just like me. I actually turned on my lights for tonight, but Nelson's always drafting in the dark. Nelson Souza, the franchise 12. What's up, man?
How's it going, guys?
Good, Nelson. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. I love drafting in the dark.
Nice to see you on the baseball side.
Yeah. It's funny because I tell people that I'm doing baseball. I've kind of gotten that motivation back into baseball, gotten that passion, and it actually helps me from drafting, hundreds of football teams when I'm bored in the summer.
Yeah, no, it's good. But the good thing is, so like, I got to tell this one thing. So Nelson is, obviously knows football is one of the best fantasy football players around. And so that skill and he, didn't draft baseball for quite a few years and still follows it here and there. And we just happened to be in a main event together. And it was just kind of quiet and didn't see him around. All of a sudden, just like creeping out of nowhere in like August or September, and just comes up and passes me. And I'm like looking at his team, like, oh my god, look at the monsters. And so I just just kind of wanted to say, not just trying to fluff you, but like just there's just something natural of, it doesn't matter what sport it is, if you kind of get a feel for the right structure and you understand roster construction and you follow kind of like the right, listen to the right people and separate the noise, you can do really well no matter how dialed in you are into actual baseball, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't follow baseball like you guys do. And I mean that as a compliment. I don't have that kind of grind in me, for baseball, but I still, follow enough that I think I can, pick up, pretty good teams that can compete. My downfall, though, is like Mike touched base on it in the 15 team of the main events. Is I'm like one of those high upside guys. I love the young, flashy players that could hit 40 home. Ellie De La Cruz, perfect example. He would be a guy I'd be pushing up in the second round easily. So I gotta be more aware of that and kind of go with the boring veteran players a little more.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're looking at your team. Your team is 10, is 10, but getting a start like you did with your first 4 there, it feels like it allows you to kind of go a little bit more with the upside. And your team isn't necessarily like it's not the super flashy. You got the nice stability with the massive power through your first 4 picks. You got a strikeout upside guy, one of the best strikeout guys in baseball there. And then, Volpe gets some more stolen bases there, a solid catcher, probably needs some more starters soon. But of course you had to get to, you are a New England guy. So you got a couple of the hot Red Sox, the guys that are seem like fun fantasy values. What do you think about Tristan Casas and Jarren Duran this season?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of disappointed as a Red Sox fan what they did this offseason, because I actually think the lineup is going to be pretty solid this year, but the pitching is just not good enough. And I really thought that they had an opportunity to kind of make a splash and pick up like a Snell, for example, and be kind of like that front line starter and really shore up the bullpen. But I don't know. I guess the money, maybe it's like stupid money that Snell and Montgomery are asking for. So they've kind of backed off of it. But they seem like, big market team that's kind of turned into the Tampa Bay Rays a little bit.
Jason, check this out. Did you notice that? You're drafting per Gialdi, the Kansas City Moose. You're drafting all left-handed starting pitcher. Was that the plan?
No, it just worked out that way. Maybe I have to take a righty just to mix it up.
Yeah.
Well, the good news I heard for Nelson was that Montgomery was like, I think 1-to-1 odds to sign with the Red Sox now. So hopefully that picks them up a little bit.
Yeah, maybe the price went down. But yeah, and then in speaking direct, particular to Cassius and Duran, like I've been a Duran fan for quite some time. I think he's got that like 2030, 2040 type of potential in him. And then with him being named as the leadoff hitter, Cora, talked about him leading off. So I think, he's got a lot of potential for runs. And then Cassius, he came on really did well in the second half last season after struggling at the start of the year. So I think, he's got the profile that that he can be a very good hitter. And I think he kind of figured it out in the second half.
Yeah, it's a nice little combo there. By the way, Eric Cross of FTN Fantasy, who's a dynasty dynamo, but also very good in the redraft format and knows his Red Sox really well. He's from Maine, but he is a big on Jarren Duran and his fantasy value. So between all you guys talking, I think you're kind of getting to me because I've been, not that I don't like him, and I think it comes to a point now where I was in a draft where he's going like 130 overall, and I don't know. There comes a point where the price might be a little too much for a guy that I think might downside is a platoon guy. Jason, you just took your next pick. You got your catcher. It's your second catcher. And then your boy. He seems to be like a popular one amongst really sharp analysts. There are a lot of analyst players that I know and like that just like, you look at Jake Berger smashing 34 bombs in whatever 500-ish plate appearances, and now he's projected for 600 plus in everyday role. Yet everywhere he's projected for the same amount of home runs. I mean, is it really going to be that much regression? I don't think so. I mean, Jake Berger can legit hit 40 even in half his games in Miami.
Yeah, the power is legit. Miami ballpark should not affect that power at all. So I'm excited to get him on this squad. I have a lot of power now. I need a little speed, but we're in a good spot. I'm pretty happy.
Josh Jung falling to 146, early 13th. That is a major drop, and that's because of his injury. Why do I always forget about injuries? I'm a bad analyst. Bad. It's like a calf, or what was the injury? It's like it's only out for a few days, right?
I believe it was a calf, Vlad. Calf soreness.
Okay.
Strained left calf.
Yeah, and this is a guy that I had him in the rankings, even ahead of Arenado. I was a huge believer in it. This funny thing happens like whenever you starting to believe in somebody that has sometimes a little bit of an injury history, and then you start drafting him ahead of ADP and touting him. You know what usually happens to that person? Something happens and they get like hurt or something like that. It's just funny how that works. Senga, whoever. All right. So what else we got here? Oh, this I wanted to share. Sorry, but Nelson, before I do, because this is I read this as the Shaq meme. I wasn't familiar with your game. What's up, Billy? Alex Bohm there, Logan O'Hoppe. Pick six.
Jason,
I like that.
Do you prefer the 12 or the 15 teamer?
I prefer the 15 teamer, Nelson. The 12s are not an afterthought, but they're not my focus during the season. The 12s are a lot of fun to draft for me in February. I try to move out of the 12-team mindset, though, for draft season at early March at the latest, because it's just such a different mindset going into the 15 teams, depth, what kind of guys you're taking shots on, upside, things like that.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
I prefer the 15 teamer. I think there's more strategy and more of a grind with the 15 teamer, but I've had more success with the 12 teamer to date. And I think I kind of figured things out a little bit last year. I had a couple of main events that were up there in the overall, and then they kind of faded. Just injuries happened. But I think, I talked about it a little bit earlier, was I got to, calm down with a little bit of the upside type of players and take some of the boring veteran players hitting at the top of the lineup, getting at bats every day.
Yeah, the upside guys can work a little more. I guess it's better in the 12s because when they hit big. But the 15s, they're so punishing when you miss on a guy and they're just useless on your roster.
Nelson, have you had the pleasure of meeting or hearing about Uncle Ted yet?
No.
No. Well, we'll introduce you to him slowly, but he says no leagues are harder to win than the 10-teamers. Everyone has a murderer's row.
Well, I mean, part of that is definitely true. I don't know about as far as being harder to win, but
yeah,
every team is pretty competitive.
Yeah. I don't remember when the last time I played a 10-teamer. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's just it's not something that I've touched probably since the earlier part of the century, 2002-ish. But Uncle Ted does say he's going to play main event. He did tweet me. He said, "Let me know what league so I can come and beat you." And so I'll let him know. Next OC I'm in. Uncle Ted, you are in. He's by the way, Nelson, he's like he is very active in the comments of every draft of every site. So we'll probably be seeing him around now that he has figured us out.
We need
who we
Uncle
are.
Ted in Vegas Saturday morning for the drafts.
Incredible. Yeah. Oh, he needs a co-manager, he says. So, all right.
Okay.
Hey, there we go. We'll find you someone. We'll find you someone. All right. Let's get back to business here. A couple of Rangers here, young guys, Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford. Man, so I've been under the market on Evan Carter, and now I've been seeing. I'm not saying I have any influence on this, I don't obviously, but like, has there been some news about Evan Carter that has caused him to fall from being like a 130s guy to like a 150s, 160s, or?
Not that I've seen.
Okay.
No, not that I know of. Maybe lack of news.
And then with Wyatt Langford, the top prospect, it's him, it's Jackson Churio. Those are the two guys that are. Churio goes ahead of him. Churio, I believe, has a much greater chance of cracking the opening day roster. In fact, most people assume that he's going to be in it. Wyatt Langford, not so much. May start in the minors. And I don't know if people. I saw a comment about the fact that they might be carrying 3 catchers to start because they have, obviously Jonah Heim, the Texas Rangers. They have Andrew Knizner, who they signed as a free agent over the offseason. And they've got former top prospect Sam Huff, who really hasn't amounted to much. They're talking about the 3 of them all being on the roster to start and how that could potentially impact Langford making the team. Is that like a thing there? Are people reaching with that thought? I don't even know.
Until we see spring training, it's hard to really speculate. It all, I guess, depends on his play. If he breaks in spring training, he's on the team. If he struggles and looks a little overmatched, he's probably going to get sent back down.
Yeah, I feel like those guys are like especially Langford. It's in the early drafts, he's either going to look like a really bad pick if he struggles in spring training and then gets sent down, or he just mashes and is hitting in a premium spot in the lineup, and then he does like a Julio Rodriguez type ascension up the draft board.
Yeah, and then exactly, like a hot spring from Wyatt Langford, and we're talking about easily a guy that probably, if it looks like he's going to make the team, like we think about what Jordan Walker did, right? Around this time last year, maybe like early March. I mean, the guy was just unconscious on the field, just smashing multiple bombs per game, driving in guys like crazy. And it was like, oh my God, Jordan Walker, he was setting min picks in the 70s and 80s even. He ended up settling somewhere around 120, which is like the 8th round. And then Anthony Volpe, you remember as well, once it appeared that he was going to make the team and his stolen base upside, he crept up. And, everybody, that side of the Mississippi, your side, Nelson, was, scooping them up like hotcakes around the, 7th, 8th round.
Mm-hmm.
What if Langford's the same case? It's possible.
Yeah.
I think except for Julio that year, right? Most of these guys that are like these hot prospects that get pushed up, it tends never to work out, right? They usually bust or semi-bust.
Or sometimes there's a delayed thing. Well, it depends. If you're talking like superstar, obviously. I mean, there was the case of Mike Trout. There was the Fernando Tatis year. That ended up being, for me, in OCs, was the best thing ever. It was a tremendous season I had. And was it like 2018 where he was basically, I decided I was going to stash Fernando Tatis Jr. in every OC, and I think I did 5 that year in like the 21st to 24th round. and I was able to get him in every draft. It was 2019, and then yeah, he just obviously played half a season. He was a 20-year-old and just had a monster year. 22 home runs, 16 RBI, 16 stolen bases, and 370 plate appearances. So yeah, there are always cases like that. And then Josh, I mean, I'm sorry.
Last year it was Jordan Walker, it was Volpe, right? He was like people pushed him up in the main event.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, to your point, Nelson, I mean, I think probably 7 out of 10 of these prospects miss. It's the 3 out of 10 that we remember. You look at even Josh Lowe last year, complete failure 2 years ago. Everybody was off him except for Vlad last year, and they hit. CJ Abrams came up, struggled next year, hit. So it's usually kind of like the old thing, wide receivers, their third year breakout. It's kind of like the second attempt for the prospects a lot of times. Now, there are the outliers with the Tatis and Acuna that just come up and immediately just start dominating. But I would agree with your assessment.
And another thing, like the Josh Lowe, another example of that is Bryson Stott, who had a very very unexciting, not exciting rookie season, and then he was pretty much like a forgotten about pick, like in the 200 to 250 range, and then just blew up. It was leading off when Harper was was out, and just consistent, like just continued. I think he ended up with like a 280 average, scored a bunch of runs, stole 30 plus bases, like 15-ish home runs. So there's a lot of that. I'm really, really a big fan of the whole the post hype sleeper. In fact, that's something I may want to be looking into this week, actually. Let's talk about your picks there, by the way. Christian Encarnacion Strand, such a long name, it won't fit on a draft board or the jersey. What do you see for him this year as far as playing time is concerned?
I don't know if Goldschmidt will fit on these new terrible jerseys, but we'll call him CES for short. There's some downside with the crowded infield, but the guy came up and immediately started hitting. We were just talking about guys that struggle when they first come up. He hit 270, I think 9 homers. Looked like he belonged. Going here, pick 168. I think in that ballpark, in that lineup, could be something special. I think it's worth the risk right here. And then Nick Pivetta, love what he did, especially the second half of last year. Added that sweeper, and really that arm really took off. So I'm building. I was a right-handed pitcher, by the way, Anthony, but really trying to build a high strikeout staff, which I have, and I just got to insulate the ratios in the innings.
That run for Nick Pivetta last year, and a lot of us were lucky to be a part of that. He was unhittable, and and then just everything. The walk rate went down, swinging strike rate went up. I mean, he was at first. It started. He was handling games from just coming in after a couple innings and just like finishing them, like coming in the third and just like 6 innings with like 12 Ks. It was insane. And if you played Pivetta in DFS, you were just cashing. So yeah, it was. I'll have to find the exact numbers, but it was just some insane stretch. I think it was August to September, around there, but he was incredible. Bo Naylor off the board, catcher. Marcelo Zuna, utility only. I feel like it's kind of been we talked about him on the show, Jason, on the FTN Fantasy Baseball podcast. I mean, this is a dude. You kind of you mentioned it well, how which Ozuna is going to show up. Is it the guy that smashed 40 bombs and drove in 100 last year, or the one that had been kind of inconsistent the previous season? But being in Atlanta kind of sets him up nicely, right?
Yeah, that lineup's so good.
All right. Hey, by the way, if you guys, I do want to hear feedback from the audience. If it's too much Uncle Ted, and he's not like a plant, we didn't plant him. He's not a troll either. I think he's being very legitimate with his comments, but I just find it funny. Here he tells us you fade second base altogether. You just grab Colton Keith as Mr. Irreverent. Third base power at second all day with a thin second base.
The only problem with Keith is he's third base eligible for the first 2 weeks until he gets the second base eligibility.
By the way, they signed Gio Urshela too. They're starting to kind of add up those veterans, and you kind of know how Detroit does it sometimes. And this is fantasy, man. I mean, this is sports. Like it's just, they're always surprises. Like so many things we've been drafting in certain ways. We're stuck in our ways, and a lot of times we feel like we have a good feel on the draft board, and then boom, spring training hits. People get injured. Guys are moved out of like their leadoff spot, and just your guys are struggling. Like they're just. It's the beauty of it all. It's why we do it. There's like always constant surprises.
Nelson's putting together some fun arms there in that little run before the Outman pick.
Yeah, a nice mix too. So Nelson's got Gavin Williams with Hunter Brown, a couple of upside young guys, and Jose Barrios there as well. And Jose Barrios he's just obviously the veteran, the Toronto guy. Do you guys have a feel for like just that that rotation in general with Kikuchi, Bassett, Barrios, like the guys beyond Gausman? Do you have any favorites there?
Barrios feels like a guy I would really want to target in a 15 for the just solidify, your number 3 or number 4. 12, I like him. I don't know if he's got the upside that I'm looking for in the 12. Not a big Bassett fan. They have a good rotation overall, but they're thin. If they have one injury, that team could really start to struggle.
Yeah, Jason hit it pretty much that Barrios is not really sexy. He's just like a really solid veteran starter. And I just felt like I needed that on this team. And then I kind of surrounded him with, a Gavin Williams and Hunter Brown with the upside.
What else we got here? Lucas Giolito. I'm sorry, cover your ears, cover your eyes. But you know what? Maybe it just bounces back to that big breakout season from a few years ago, or a little bit of that taste of what was it on? Was it Patriots Day when Giolito was pitching the early morning game in Boston? I think it was like a couple years ago, and he got blasted for like 9 runs in one inning.
Yeah, it was the Monday morning marathon game.
Yep. So imagine you set your lineups for NFBC or wherever you play for the week, and then boom, Monday hits. You're so excited for the game. Oh, I got a Monday morning starter. He got 2 starts this week, and then that happens, and it just kind of ruins the week.
It does.
I don't think I've looked at taking him ever since that game.
Yeah, the ratios. I mean, I feel like so many of us are so sensitive to it. Like, especially that's why a lot of people they load up on the starters early, right? Even in a 12-teamer, you don't want to. You will pick up some gems over the course of the season in Fab, and you kind of hit on it. In fact, that breakout season for Giolito was it 2019? He was a Fab guy. Like he was not even being drafted, maybe in a couple drafts by the 30th, but he had a few good starts early on in April, and it took like week 3 or 4 for people to really catch on. And so I remember like week 2 bids that year, he was going for like $10, $20, $30. And then the last remaining Giolito shares in NFBC 12-teamers were, going in the hundreds. People like figured it out like, wait, this is legit. Oh, wait, he was a top prospect with Arizona. Like this is happening. And so a lot of people just cashed in majorly that year. By the way, Blake Snell, the year before, 2018, he was an 18th rounder in 15-teamers for his Cy Young year with the Tampa Bay Rays. And that was incredible. It was like basically the ERA that he had last year for the Padres.
Hey, Vlad, this one's for you, buddy.
All right, let's go. Oh, I'm off him now. I can't do it anymore. No,
What?
No, I'm trying to balance.
This is the year to own him.
I know. You know what? We last week we had the cut line draft that I did, and Siege was on here, and Anthony Gialdi as well, who's here in the chat as Kansas City Moose. And Siege is really anti Tyler O'Neill since the Cardinals days. He's even, I guess, he knows some people in St. Louis, and even provided some like intel about O'Neill, and that I don't know. I think he's just like kind of just hates him for no reason, but he really like fired me up about how he thinks he's like the 4th outfielder there on that team. So I don't know, man. I think you're wrong, Siege. There's a lot to like about Boston. Boston offense this year. I'm not talking about the wins. I'm not trying to predict. I'm not trying to say they're going to win 90 games. Pitching's got issues. They have no idea what to ever do with like Tanner Houck or Garrett Whitlock. Every year you're drafting them. Am I drafting a reliever? Am I drafting a starter?
If Trevor Story stays healthy and Vaughn Grissom kind of, shows up and hits on some of his potential, that offense is going to be real sneaky. It's going to be sneaky good.
Well,
Yeah,
talk
all the way
me
down
about
to the
Tommy Edman. What are your thoughts on him with the wrist injury?
Me personally, I haven't been drafting him. I've got him like I think maybe like 4 rounds under ADP myself in my rankings, and I'm probably overdoing it. But I think I build in a little bit of that. Anyone that's like injured to start the year, I'm usually just very careful of, and especially like with a wrist. I remember who was it on the Rockies a few years? Oh, Ian Desmond. That was the kind of the thing that maybe it was like 2017 or something, but he was like hitting for power well. He was really kind of starting to break out a little bit, and then he had a wrist injury in the preseason, got hit on the wrist, and it just sapped him just for the whole season. It really took him a while to rebound. And granted, Edman's not a power guy; he's there for the speed, but also because of things have kind of changed at the top of the lineup, he's not really a leadoff guy. Then again, on the flip side, his price falls far enough, and you're getting a 30 stolen base guy super late, then it's a good deal, multi-position eligibility.
Yeah, I was just chasing speed. I don't think it was a great pick.
Steven asks, I'm going to ask you guys, any love for James Outman after reports that he will be in the lineup every day? I did not hear that note. I'm not fully caught up on news through our recording here on Thursday night. I've been lower on him. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it's something I do my evaluations, and then something in the back of my head is somebody that I was really on the year prior that I worked out as a breakout. I pull back a little bit sometimes, and maybe it's just like a personal bias thing, but I don't know. I think maybe it was the average, the inconsistency with him down the stretch and the batting average, and the fact that the team is so talented. He could lose playing time. Any thoughts on Outman, guys?
I mean, I drafted him, and I want to say this is my third OC, and I've got him on 2 teams, so nice. I'm an Outman fan.
Yeah, Dodgers, Braves, got to get in on them. The Yankees, by the way, they're popping in as overall as a team as far as like projected runs for the season. I think they're 3rd, 4th, or 5th somewhere in VDP FTN projections for just team run totals. And this is after being the, I think, 5th least amount of runs scored last season. So I believe it was like the Pirates scored more runs than them, and it was so bad. Obviously, you lose Judge, Stanton misses a chunk of the season. They were lost, but like, I don't know. I'm really big on the Yankees offense this year overall. We got Ryan Pepio, former Dodger there. Braxton Garrett off the board. He's got a little bit of an injuries concern. It was like a sore shoulder or something. Are you okay? You've been drafting him, guys?
I'll take a discount. There's plenty of guys with injury issues that I'm looking at that I'd probably take over him at this point. But the guy was really good. I picked him up in Fab last year in almost every one of my teams, and he just was a lock-in number 3 or 4. I really didn't take him out of the lineup, so it was matchup proof, which is hard to find on Fab. So good pitcher.
We're going to take us through the end of the 20th round. So that'll be about 2/3 of the draft. So we'll take you here through another couple rounds. I'm here with Nelson. You're the _franchise 12 on Twitter. Is that right?
_franchise 12. Yep.
The _franchise 12. Yep. Jason Anthony's at Booms62. These are 2 of the best, not just because they're my friends, but because they are legit good on the scoreboard, looking at their rankings in high stakes national competitions over the years. So we are drafting here. It's the Beat Jason Anthony League. We are all with FTN Fantasy, ftnfantasy.com. Seeger5, the promo code for the baseball package that hopefully you already have, so we don't have to talk about that too much. I'm going to be unprofessional and let my cat in real quick, who's getting at the door, and Nelson just made a pick with the big stolen base upside guy.
Yeah, I started off with a lot of power at the beginning of the draft, and I had to. It was a little bit by design. I wanted to have a kind of like a power hitting team in the OC. My other two teams were more balanced, and I had taken starting pitching earlier in those other two OCs, so I wanted to concentrate on power. And then I knew that I had like certain targets later in the draft to like make up for the speed.
And then Jackson Holiday, forgetting what's your other shortstop. I can like scroll up and see. I'm just curious. Like, okay, all right. So your coverage, and you don't mind holding Jackson Holiday for a while, top prospect there. Are you doing that? You're just assuming he makes the team, or you don't mind holding him either way? You're just like going upside here.
I just wanted to go with the upside, and he fell past his ADP. So he's not a guy that I'm like actively targeting, but I thought he fell far enough that I'd be interested in it. I already had a starting shortstop, so I wasn't too worried about it.
How do you, Nelson, just feel about your team in general here as you're building it? And obviously, I know you're comfortable drafting live, and but it's a different sport. But going well so far?
I think so. It was interesting because I was talking to someone just the other day about do you guys, so I'll ask you guys, but I don't use like projections or any type of system when I'm drafting to kind of tell me where I'm at with like batting average, certain categories. So I just ballpark it and eyeball it. I wanted to see what you guys do, but that's kind of like how I do it. And I'm just trying right now, like how I feel about it. I think I'm okay in the categories, but like you guys obviously are much more in tune with baseball, that you could look at the team and tell me if you think something's off.
How do you do it usually, Jason? Is it different for you? Like if you're doing a 12-team OC versus a main event, or how do you track?
The only thing different is my targets. I put everything on a spreadsheet with my projections, so I enter it as I go. Not necessarily 80th percentile or 90th percentile, because it's a fool's errand trying to get there, but just to make sure I'm not devoid in any area. I used to try to eyeball it, and it really kind of bit me in the rear end a couple times because I thought I had enough homers. And there's some categories like runs and whip that kind of go unnoticed if you don't have it, or at least me personally, if I don't have it in front of me. And once you're behind, it's really hard to catch up.
Yeah, I've done it so many different ways over the years. I used to use RotoLab religiously, and it's a great software. I would have my projections in there, and I would enter my players as I went. And I remember my first time ever doing it, it was a struggle just keeping up because sometimes you can enter some people just choose to enter their own picks to kind of keep track of your targets. And there were years where I would enter everyone's pick. And then if I'm doing that live at a main event, which I think I did last year or the year before, and then, somebody comes by to say, what's up and hello, all of a sudden you're behind and chasing, and then you're off your own picks. And so you can go overboard with it all. At the same time, if you are kind of eyeballing it, sometimes you could potentially miss things, but there's always different ways. Like some people, write it down, and you could just like write out the projection so you can, literally eyeball it and see, okay, yeah, I feel a little short in, power or home runs or whatever. But I don't know. I still have to figure out how I'm going to do it for this year because I have so many ways, but I want to kind of figure out like what my optimal style will be.
Vlad,
All right,
talk
we're
to me
turning
about Tristan McKenzie a little bit.
Oh, me, man. So he is. I think he can pitch a full season and be fine. I don't think he really has like that many restrictions. He's not really going to be babied. He has been like the tale of like kind of two parts of his career completely. And I think that's part of any concern people have with him is the like just kind of not knowing where he's going to fit in, right? Because massive season 2022 where he basically, I mean, he had 30 starts, 190 innings. He had a ERA under 3, and then all of his ratio indicators were well above that. So, and that's something that people look at, of course. They're seeing, okay, an ERA at 2.95, but then his xERA and his FIP and his xFIP, all those things are like a run higher. That's really not that big of a deal. So he, overperformed. That's great, but it's not like all those are in the 4s, right? And then even his SIERA that year was 3.5. So again, not that bad. And last year, just not the same guy. I think velocity was pretty much the same, but anyways, it didn't last too long. He got hurt after a few innings, and that was that. And so, yeah, I mean, now he shouldn't be restricted. You're probably looking at like 25 to 30 starts if he stays healthy, maybe a little over that. ERA around, I don't know, 4-ish. Maybe a strikeout per inning type of guy. And I like him for where he goes. I think he might actually get some helium.
Yeah, he was one of those injury arms I was talking about. I'd take the risk on over Garrett.
That's messed up, man. That's messed up, Moose. Heard he dropped some weight in the offseason.
There's no more belt loops.
Late night. All right. Very interested to see that Senga finally goes. Senga off the board. That's like pick 220-ish. Is that around where you guys were expecting? What do you think for him? It's a pretty good deal.
He's a cross-off for me right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not interested in him.
Not at all. Like not even in the 200s, just like a stat. You can only have so many stashes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid because I was being careful with them, and all of a sudden I did my 1 KDC. It's like, oh, let me get Senga. The very next day, like within hours, this news came out. So I'm definitely reeling with that one. Hopefully he's okay.
Yeah, just going back to like last year with like Carlos Rodon and these guys that, if they're healthy, they're like big, high strikeout guys. But I mean, unfortunately, once they suffer an injury in spring training, and especially like to their arm as a pitcher, I'm just pretty much leaving them alone.
I want to ask you guys any strong feelings about Mason Miller? Because if we get word that, he's going to be the closer, that is going off. I mean, he's going to go up at least, I don't know. He's going to go probably up into the what would you say, Alzolay, Kenley Jansen range, or even higher than that, if he was to be named the closer.
I'd probably say a round or two behind that, just because the injury risk and the A's.
Yeah. I mean, Trevor May was racking up the saves second half of last year.
Yeah, you end up with 20, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to put him in your lineup every week to get all 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. And the other thing is, I believe manager was talking about, or maybe his front office quote about how the plan was, and this was maybe 3 weeks ago, is I was going to be kind of open, and it was between, ironically, Lucas Erceg, who was a popular draft champions guy, as kind of like the Mason Miller backup, or like maybe some late saves. He's the one that people thought, because he's got filthy stuff, they thought he was going to be like in the closer mix, but I guess somebody talked about it being Danny Jimenez, Mason Miller, and Trevor Gott in the mix. So that's interesting. We'll see how that unfolds. I'd love to see Mason Miller just have the job outright.
And it was interesting. Mason Miller, I think, was the third name mentioned by the manager, not even the second. So I don't know what role they're looking at for him, but obviously not a starter. So
yeah, I mean, it's perfect for it, right? Why not?
Yeah,
let the
high
man close.
octane, let it rip.
But then again, if you really think about, so that's like what we want. But maybe what's best for them is because Danny Jimenez had done the job before. He's not really, I don't think he's that great a reliever. I think God is very mediocre. I think those guys could like lose their jobs. But isn't there a lot of value in having a guy like Mason Miller like get you a few innings, right? And high leverage, 7th, 8th, as opposed to us being selfish wanting him as a closer?
It depends how many times a week he can actually pitch doing a couple innings. If it's just once or twice a week, and then is it as valuable as being able to pitch 3 or 4 times a week for 1 inning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting ready to wrap up. I don't know, just any last thoughts here, Jason? What do you think of this team? Do you think it's a beat Jason Anthony league? Do you think people are gonna have a shot to beat you here today?
Everybody's got a shot to beat me. I have a big injury risk, but a bigger upside. So I'm excited about the upside. If my pitchers stay healthy, it's got a chance to really pop. But I need some speed, just need some luck. So we'll see what happens. But a lot of good competitors in this league, and now I got to play against Nelson. It's not very exciting, but it'll be a grind for sure.
Nelson, you got to have something with the Red Sox in your team name because you added Von Grissom to the team, so you're loaded on the Sox.
Well, how many Sox do I have? I have Cassius and Duran, right? And then
Cassis, Duran. Yeah, I guess that's it. That's not bad.
Grissom now. Yeah.
Hey, you still got 10 more rounds to get more right.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna go take any more, but like I said, I am a fan of them, but I'm a fan of their lineup, their offense this year. So I think they have some guys that could have a good season. And I like the fact that Jason earlier said that these 12 teamers are like secondary to him. His main focus is the main event. So
yeah.
I feel like I've got a shot at this league.
Yep, that's right. No, this is a good one. It feels like a pretty sharp room here. And then yeah, finish it off here. Jason popping Eloy Jimenez, massive upside. We talked about him on the podcast as just like that rare guy with massive power and high batting average upside as well. So it's really just about the team context. They're a little dangerous, but yeah, this is fun. This is great. We got more of these to come. We will do a Beat Eric Cross League very soon. OC will do a Beat Me as well. So that'll be fun. That's it for Nelson Souza, for Jason Anthony. I'm Vlad Sedler. This is the FTN Fantasy Baseball live stream, and we'll see you at the next one.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Good luck, Nelson.
You too.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Vlad.